What's up, guys? Jordan McAbee here, fantasyracingonline.com, home of the Slingshot Fantasy Auto Contest, and it's Daytona week. Coke Zero Sugar 400. Race number 26 of the season, the final race before the playoffs. This one's probably going to get pretty wild. Welcome to Pick Anybody week, and I am serious when I say that. This is going to be a relatively short video than what I usually put out. It's because it doesn't really matter who you pick this week. There's strategy into making picks, but at the end of the day, this is going to be a very random race, and the drivers that are going to score and finish well are going to be the ones that have the luck and get through the wrecks. So a lot of making picks this week, I would just go on basic game theory and just sit back and enjoy the race and pick whoever you want. Like, literally anybody you want. I would stay away from the top 9 starters. Hopefully by now you know that scoring in this game there's a lot of emphasis on place differential. So, yes, Kyle Larson could win this race. Yes, William Byron could win this race. Yes, Denny Hamlin could win this race. They start top 3. If they don't, though, your roster is going to be completely ruined, because if Kyle Larson finishes dead last like he did at Talladega earlier this year and he starts on the pole, he loses 39 spots. Right there is negative 78 points. He gets, I think, 2 points for finishing 40th, so he's negative 76. So you'll have a driver on your lineup that scores negative 76 points if you pick Larson and he finishes last. It's just not really worth it. We'll take a look at scoring, how scoring's played out in the Slingshot contest in the first 2 Super Speedway races this year. But first, like I said, it's almost the playoffs. This is the final race of our summer segment in this game. So let's take a look at those standings, give those guys that are doing well a shout out. Nate A is probably going to win this segment. Right now he has 6,310 points, just crushing everybody. That's just a great second half of the regular season by, I'm assuming, him. And our overall leader, Old Fart Racer, he's right up there as well. Again, assuming sorry, I shouldn't do that. But 5th in summer segment, number 1 overall. Lot of teams having really good summer segments. And like I said, after this week, we're going to go into the playoffs. So we're going to crown a summer segment champion, and then we'll have the playoffs and the final 10 races of the year. So yeah, this is the 3rd Super Speedway race, and we'll go in. Let's take a look. If you don't know how to, if you've never went back and looked, on the pick page, you scroll down here to driver season stats, and you click on that. You can look at all of the races, how each driver scored. So let's take a look at Daytona. The top scores. So we're looking at starting position right here on the right side. You'll notice top scores started 25th, 17th, 34th, 12th, 39th. Austin Dillon started 4th, finished 3rd, still scored 50 less points than Denny Hamlin, who finished 5th. That's how important place differential points and stage points are in this contest. But even you look at stage points, Denny Hamlin scored 20, Austin Dillon scored 14, and there's still that big of a gap. Again, the safest lineup this week is to not play anybody starting up front. And basically, I would stay out of the top 20, definitely stay out of the top 10. That is my strategy. Obviously, there are going to be exceptions. There are going to be drivers that start up front, that finish up front, that score pretty well. But I've ran this game since its start. I know how it works inside and out. It's just not the best strategy to take risks at Daytona and Talladega with guys starting up front. It's just not worth it. So, you look back, we'll sort this by the guys starting in the back from Daytona. Kaz Grala started 40th, finished 28th, still scored 61 points. Cindric, 117. You really have to not have a good race to not score a good amount of points from going from a driver starting in the back. So it's just it's worth stacking all these guys in the back in this slingshot game. Because they're most likely to score the most points. And if they don't, even if they have an okay race, they're still going to score a good amount of points, and you're going to have a good week or a decent week or an average week. Whereas if you take the chances, and trust me, I get taking chances, but if you take the chance of guys starting up front and they wreck, you're going to have a bad week, and you're just going to lose points to the overall leaders. There is a small chance that you will gain points with that strategy, but chances are you're not going to. So as far as how this race is going to play out, expected to play out, well, let's take a look at Talladega first. So this was Daytona. A couple of, high scorers starting in the top 10, but for the most part, we see here, we keep scrolling. So the top 5 scorers all started 12th or worse. There were 2 inside the top 10, and then 11th, 19th, 27th, 13th, 16th, 24th, 25th, or 35th, 38th, 30th. It's just not, the place differential points are just too valuable in this game to not roll with the place differential plays. We'll take a look at Talladega. Kaz Grala, highest scorer in that race. Again, surprisingly, was not owned very much. Only 3.9% owned, but he started 38th. He finished 6th. He scored the most points. Keselowski started 10th in that race. He won. He still only scored 148 points. Yes, that's an example of, a 10th place driver working out. He scored a lot of points that race. But look at this. So the top scorers from that race, 38th, 23rd, 10th, 16th, 13th, 27th, 20th. You're down to Byron, who started 4th and finished 2nd and scored 111 points. Then you got 30th, 29th, 25th, 28th. I can't hammer this home enough. Focus on place differential. Don't focus on who does well. Yes, I mentioned stats in my article this week, and I will in other places. That's just to add a little bit of reasoning, because at the end of the day, there are certain drivers that are better at super speedways, and there are, but they can wreck just as easily as the other guys. So yes, you can take a look at stats. You can see who overall does well or does better at these tracks, but for that to have a major implication in your picks, I don't like that. I just like picking guys that I want to pick and that have upside due to place differential when it comes to the slingshot game, and maybe picking guys that I normally don't, just to have somebody else to root for. That's how I go with it. And obviously these place differential plays can wreck. We've seen it, but they're not going to kill your lineup if they wreck. This week, it's the playoff cut race. Most of these drivers really have nothing to lose by being super aggressive. So what I'm expecting out of this race is, I think it's going to be very calm and not a lot happening for the first 70 to 80% of the race. In that final stage, and when we get to the end, I think we're either going to see one massive wreck at the end that takes out over half the field, or we're going to see a bunch of big wrecks happen, maybe with 10 laps to go, and then again with 5 laps to go, and then again, I'm just throwing out numbers, but you get what I'm saying. I don't think there's going to be a lot of cars that actually finish this race, just because nobody has anything to lose by going for the win and a lot to gain. These drivers that are outside on the playoffs, nobody can point their way into the playoffs this week except for Tyler Reddick or Austin Dillon. So anybody that's not in the playoffs right now needs to win. And they're going to be aggressive, and they're going to go for the win. Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson are going for the regular season points championship. Denny Hamlin's probably going to be pretty aggressive this week. I think Kyle Larson's going to back it down and try to just not wreck and go for it at the end. Whereas I think Denny Hamlin's going to try to go for the 2 stage wins each time, and he's going to have the car to do it. That's just how I see this race playing out. It could end up being completely different. We could see a wreck on lap 10. We could see just a race full of wrecks, but I think it's going to be relatively calm until the end. But I do think that it's going to get crazy, and I think the drivers that typically stay in the back and ride around are going to be even safer picks than normal. And I'm talking the back markers especially, like the guys you don't want to pick, the Quinn House, the Cody Wares, the guys that basically run around by themselves all race and are hoping for the wrecks to, one, avoid them and then just get all those positions by making laps. I think they're really going to have good scores in this race. Is it great, or does it go against your intuition and your typical thought process in picking those guys? Absolutely. It's not comfortable. I hate making a lineup of, Joey Gase, Quinn Houff, Bilicki, BJ McLeod. But at the same time, there's a ton of upside, and I think they're going to score points. Am I going to make a lineup like that? Probably not. I like picking drivers that also have legitimate top 10 potential, while at the same time keeping place differential in play. Just for shits and giggles, we'll look at stats. Like I said, I do include, like finishes and average finish and so many good finishes over a span when I'm talking this week. It's just because I have no other data, and my brain's very data driven. So I have no other data to prove my point. I can't just say I like this guy and not have a reason. You know what I mean? Like, I can't just say, oh, I like Michael McDowell this week. Whereas I can say Michael McDowell won at Daytona and finished third at Talladega this year, and has overall been very strong on these track types. And here's the proof. Do I put a lot of stock in those stats? Absolutely not. Do I reference them? Yes. Are they somewhat in the back of my mind? Yes. But at the end of the day, this is all about game theory. And that's how I play it, and that's how I'd recommend you doing as well. Like I said, it's pick anybody week. Just be smart about it. Be smart about the upside that these drivers have. Again, driveraverages.com, one of my favorite sites for a quick statistic references. So you can come over here and go to averages by track type, and then click Super Speedway. So it's going to bring together all the Super Speedway races since 2018, and then career-wise. I like to look at this, top 20s. And we talked about, Rotodoc and I talked about this on the Stacking Denny's podcast this week. The drivers that have finished top 20, obviously everybody's going to have a bad race. You can look at low finish here, and pretty much everybody has had at least one bad race. John Henry Nemechek didn't over his 4 starts last year. But at the same time, everyone's also had a good finish. All of these guys in this whole screenshot right here have finished 8th or better at least once since the start of 2018 on a super speedway track. But I like looking at top 20s just because the percentage. So like 10 out of 14, it gives me a good idea of who relatively stays safe in these races. Like I said, it's so random, but it's numbers to look at, and it's something to consider. But really, you're looking at Denny Hamlin's the top super speedway racer right now. Ryan Newman's always sneaky. Austin Dillon, he has to win. I don't like that. So that's another thing to consider this week is kind of the storylines going on. Austin Dillon basically needs to win or hope that Tyler Reddick wrecks out to get to the playoffs. He's obviously going to be a very popular pick in this game. He starts 27th. He has great place differential upside. He has a history here at Daytona. He's won at Daytona before. He won the dual race. Yeah, he won his dual race this year. He finished 3rd in the Daytona 500. He finished 8th at Talladega. He won the Daytona 500 in 2018. He's had really solid finishes in his career. I can't make a case for not picking Austin Dillon this week at $9,500. At the same time, I know a lot of people are going to, so if I want to try to get an edge on those people and hope that and just be different, and if Austin Dillon Rex try to gain points that way, I will purposely not pick him. Is that again? That's just a strategy play and how this game plays out. Obviously, the super safe picks this week are Kaz Grala in the 16 Colleague Racing car, starts 38th. Finished top 10 at Talladega, was running well at Daytona until I think he had like a brake issue or some kind of wheel issue. And then Landon Castle, he's in the 96 car that Harrison Burton was in at Talladega. Harrison Burton, I think he finished top 10 in a stage and finished 20th at the end of the race, something like that. So so when we're looking at the starting lineup and we go to the back, Kaz Grala, Landon Castle are on a different level than these other back markers. These guys can actually compete for a good finish without relying on wrecks. So David Starr is going to be the worst car in the field, and even if half the field wrecks, he's probably going to finish 19th or 20th because his car is just that awful. The only way he moves up is with wrecks. Joey Gase, Balicki, Quinn Houff, Garrett Smithley, they're all right there. They have decent cars, but they're not going to move up. They're on a lower tier than Grala and Castle, and even LaJoie and Alfredo. So LaJoie is actually a really good super speedway racer. Can't make a case against him. He's one of my favorite super speedway picks, actually, at Daytona and Talladega. Finished 9th in the Daytona 500 this year. Finished 8th and 16th and 21st in 3 of the 4 last year. 22nd at Talladega. Before that, he 7th, 6th, 11th, 18th. Like I said, these stats don't really matter, but at the same time, it shows you that he's a decent finisher and he has a history. He starts 33rd, assuming he actually races. If he's still out with COVID, obviously he's going to be replaced by someone. But LaJoie and Alfredo, they have better cars than these guys. This is what I'm getting at. So from that standpoint, they make better picks. That also means they should be more popular picks. So do I think Corey LaJoie and Anthony Alfredo are going to be super popular in this game on Saturday night? Absolutely not. That's why I like picking them. Same with Kaz Grala and Landon Castle. We've seen the ownerships of Kaz Grala before. They aren't that high in this game. So I really love just stacking these back guys, and even a top 20 finishes out of 4 of them is going to get you a very good score. Bigger names starting further back: Ross Chastain 29th, Austin Dillon 27th, Suarez, who has an awful career, has never been good at super speedways, but anything can happen. Starts 26th. And then the biggest name starting outside the top 20 is Joey Logano, starting 22nd. He's won at Daytona before. He's always solid at these super speedways. He wrecks a lot lately, but definitely I'd say a very safe pick. You look at these finishes here. He's always up there leading laps. You have to like Logano this week if you're going for the highest priced driver. But yeah, so my personal recommendation is maximum one driver in the starting in the top 20 and everyone else starting outside the top 20. And even maybe let's look at the starting lineup. Honestly, I'd probably go maximum of 2 drivers starting in the top 24 and everyone else starting outside of that. That's just that's how much I would rely on place differential this week and the typical junk cars. That's just what I honestly, if I had to put a lineup together right now on the spot, I'd go Grala, Castle, probably Corey LaJoy. Maybe sneak in a Ryan Newman, just because Ryan Newman's a guy that doesn't get talked about much, but you look at his super speedway finishes, has been solid over the years. So that's going to be probably my highest starter is Newman, and maybe go Joey Logano if I really wanted to, or that's just an example lineup of just something on the spot. But you get my point. So bringing me to my final point here, there's no reason to use the whole salary cap this week. Focus on place differential, enjoy the race, and we'll get them next week of actually looking at stats. Just pick who you want this week. Be smart about your picks. Remember how important place differential is, and just hope they don't wreck. That's all we can do in this race. That's literally all we can do. That's all I have for you. I know this isn't the typical going into stats and really figuring out who's going to be the best on Saturday night, because it really doesn't matter. All it matters is who gets through the wrecks and who has luck. That's what it's going to come down to, and you can't predict that. You can't. I haven't even ran my algorithm yet, but that's also not going to play much into my thought process for the weekend either. But yeah, so good luck. Hopefully those tips help. That's just what I'm going to do. Obviously, there's a lot of strategies this week that could end up working out, but that's how I see the race playing out. That's how I see the optimal strategy working in this game. And we'll be back next week to talk about Darlington and the opening of the playoffs. So good luck on Saturday night at Daytona. We're all going to need it. And hopefully we get a good race and an exciting finish to kick off the final 10 weeks of the season. So good luck. See ya.